She appears to be floating, transparent, an anachronism in 1930s clothing. The scent of gardenias follows her form, but who is the sad girl who haunts the Hollywood sign? How did her life and subsequent death become a symbol of Hollywood's broken dreams? Who is the beautiful blonde with the striking blue eyes, and why would she choose to end her life so young and with so much ahead of her? We're gonna find out today. But first, hello and welcome to Creepy Cassetti, your place for horror in reality and beyond. If this sort of content interests you, please hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you know every time I drop another video. Now back to the story. Her name was Peg, born Millicent Lillian Entwistle on February 5th, 1908 to British actor parents Robert and Emily Entwistle. It's not clear where the nickname Peg came from. Her place of birth was Port Talbot, Glamorgan, Wales, in her maternal grandparents' home. She made her entrance unexpectedly while her parents were on vacation visiting. Robert and Emily were married in 1904 and had spent much of their time touring and taking acting jobs around the country. Until the age of 3, Peg lived in West Kensington, London with her Aunt Laura, Uncle Frank, and her older cousin while her parents continued their careers. She gained her first taste of acting watching her father and uncle perform Shakespeare at King George V's coronation, and around 1913 her parents had a very nasty and very public divorce after her mother rekindled a relationship with an old flame. Her mother declined her father's attempts to rekindle and went as far as to say that she never loved Robert or Peg. At this point, little Peg was only 5, and I know that must have really cut her. Her father gained full custody, and in 1913, Peg, her father, and Uncle Charles, who was also a theater manager, immigrated to New York. Robert had been offered a job as a stage manager. He kept food on the table by taking small roles and designing sets. At some point, he remarried Loretta Ross, who Peg was said to have adored. 2 brothers were born of their union. Tragically, in 1921, Loretta passed away from meningitis. Just the next year, 1922, Peg also lost her father to a hit and run. His will was clear. Peg's mother was never to have custody of Peg, which makes a lot of sense to me. The pain she must have caused poor Peg after her harsh words, I wouldn't want that lady anywhere near my offspring either. Peg and her 2 brothers were adopted by her Uncle Charles. The 2 boys went to live in Ohio with their uncle, and Peg stayed behind in New York for more acting opportunities. In 1925, when she was just 17, she received her first uncredited Broadway role in Hamlet alongside Ethel Barrymore. She carried the poison cup and held the king's train. In 1926, she was given her first credited Broadway role in the play The Man from Toronto, but her big break came from playing Hedwig in the stage production of Wild Duck, which was the performance actress Betty Davis credits for inspiring her to become an actress. Her natural talent and skill must have preceded her because she was also recruited into the New York Theater Guild in 1926. Sometime in 1927, when she was just 19, she married fellow actor Robert Keith, but the marriage did not last long at all. Robert had not been forthcoming about the fact that not only had he been married before, he also had a son. Later in the year, she would act in her most notable part in the play Tommy, which ran for 232 performances. And that is some real dedication, because I remember performing nightly for a week when putting on shows got so old, especially after the dress rehearsals and having practice for months. So I can't imagine putting on the same performance 232 times. She built quite the body of work, appearing in 9 Broadway productions, including performances in Little Women and Sherlock Holmes. It wasn't all roses and applause, though. While Tommy was a major success, the following production in The Uninvited Guest did not go nearly as well. The play closed after only 7 performances, and even though The Uninvited Guest was a flop, her performance was praised by a critic for the New York Times who stated, "Peg Entwistle gave a performance considerably better than the play warranted." Her Broadway career ended in 1932. Following her role, she was supposed to be paid a percentage of the box office funds. Instead, she was given a week's salary and sent on her way. She toured with the New York Theater Guild for a couple of months before finding herself in Los Angeles with her Uncle Charles. At this point, The country was in the final year of the Great Depression, and jobs were getting harder and harder to come by. She picked up a role as Billie Burke in the play Mad Hopes, working with Humphrey Bogart. She and Bogart both received praise for their supporting roles in the play. When Mad Hopes ended, Peg initially intended to go back to New York. Instead, she received a call from RKO Pictures for a screen test for a movie called 13 Women. Her screen test must have gone well because she was hired for the role of Hazel Clay Cousins. She'd found out not long after filming that a lot of her scenes had been cut. The movie, which was originally 73 minutes long, chopped 14 minutes off of the final product, and with it, some of Entwistle's dreams. On September 16, 1932, Peg told her uncle she was going to meet some friends at a drugstore, which during this time was not only a place to pick up meds, but a place to hang out, grab a bite, and enjoy a drink from the soda fountain. Instead, Peg hiked up Mount Lee with her final thoughts scrawled across a piece of paper placed in her purse. She climbed up a maintenance ladder on top of the H, and then she just jumped. It's not clear if she died upon impact, if she was unconscious, or if she felt every shattered bone in her pelvis before drifting off into infinite slumber. 2 days later, a woman who had been hiking the trail came across a purse, a woman's shoe, and a jacket. A few feet away in the ravine towards the bottom of the mountain, she found Peg's body. In her purse, she left a note that read, "I am afraid I am a coward, and I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." Initialed P.E. The authorities did not identify her initially. They posted the suicide note in the papers, hoping it would help someone come forward and identify the woman. When Peg didn't return home, her uncle saw the note in the papers and recognized Peg's initials. He went down to the morgue to identify his niece. He remarked to the police that she had been suffering from intense mental anguish the months prior to her death. The coroner reported her cause of death as multiple pelvic fractures. She must have felt so hopeless. She finally gets a real theater role. Instead of it skyrocketing her career, she ended up having very little time on camera at all. On top of that, when the movie did premiere a month after her death, it was a drag, no critical or commercial success, which, considering the book itself was considered trashy, the premise of the book and movie being a slasher type film where a biracial woman takes her revenge out on white sorority sisters for perceived racial slights during her time in college. She poses as an astrologer and uses the power of suggestion as well as doom and gloom predictions to persuade the girls to do her bidding. It doesn't help that the movie may have been a bit ahead of its time in the fairly intolerant world of the 1930s. LGBTQ plus scenes did not sit well with the clean-cut image of the time, and part of the storyline included a relationship between two women. I haven't watched the movie for this video, but if you'd like me to watch it, since it's kind of horror related, I can give my real review and see how well the story aged. Let me know in the comments below. Maybe watching it through a 2022 lens will bring a different viewpoint and redeem the story. Also, if you've seen the movie or read the book, let me know in the comments below. Peg never even got to see the movie, as a month before the movie premiered, Peg found herself dangling precariously from the Hollywoodland sign. And I did say Hollywoodland. When the sign was initially erected in 1923, it was to advertise an up-and-coming residential community in the area called Hollywoodland. The sign was only meant to be temporary, made of wood paneling, anchored by telephone poles, and covered in thousands of lights. But because it became such an iconic part of the scenery, it still stands as an icon of the Los Angeles area. In 1949, the H collapsed and was destroyed. The sign was rebuilt of steel and given to the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, as it had been abandoned by its original real estate due to the Great Depression. It was during the restoration that Peg's apparition started appearing to people in the area. Park rangers state she is more active on foggy nights. Her favorite scent, gardenias, follows her form. Many people have come forth to report seeing the specter of a beautiful blonde looking forlorn in outdated attire who appears as she is walking on air, not truly tethered to the ground like a human would be. Anytime someone tries to get close or make contact, she disappears suddenly. When she doesn't appear in her full form, she shows up as a white cloud that disappears as quickly as it is seen. As someone who can personally attest to the soul-crushing disappointment of having your talents passed over, Peg's story hits a little close to home for me. A lot of artists have died in obscurity only for us to be talking about them decades upon decades later. But Peg's story is well known for another reason, because her death is synonymous with Tinseltown's broken dreams. She is just as much a symbol of the Hollywood experience as the sign is. How many people have dropped their whole lives to move to LA just for the chance at the spotlight? We know a lot of times things don't work out. But that doesn't mean that you should give up. If you love your craft and you know your talent, never give up. Find the right platform, find the right people, be patient. In time, you might find you've amassed a real following. Have some faith in yourself. Who knows the kind of career Peg could have had if she had just held on a little longer. I hate to see real talent snuffed out. Who knows what we would be saying about her nowadays had she continued her life and career? Would she be a legendary starlet like Betty Davis, whom she inspired? We'll never know. If you have any ideas for any upcoming content or things that you'd like to hear more about, please let me know in the comment section below and stick around for another video. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.